Welcome everyone. So we implemented insert, update, and delete efficiently. Right now we need to have an endpoint that actually retrieves the transaction that we have added. So this retrieving process will be divided into 2 or 3 steps. The general retrieve, where we are going to retrieve transactions for a specific wallet or set of wallets within a specific time range or for a specific year. Another one, which will be for the email section that we talked about at the beginning of this course, where we are going to have a function that runs on Sunday and send the user a report of how was his or her expenses during the last week. And the third part is going to be like an intensive reporting inside the application about every single thing. Where are the most transactions are going, which the tags, the stuff like that. So for now, let's start with the first part. That will be this is what the user will see in the home page, where like when you choose 1 or 2 wallets, and then is going to see the transactions related to that. So I will start first by opening the transactions, and I'm going to open a new SQL query, and I'll hit execute query. I will retrieve everything. So I'll see I have a lot of transactions. So what we will do is we need to first, because we are retrieving them for a specific user, we need to execute the query against user ID. But that's not the partitioning key. This is the partitioning key that also specifies a user with a year. So this is what we are going to use. The partitioning key is always we will provide it for performance reason, and also, so I'm going to say user ID 2023. Okay, like that. So in this case, if I execute this query, I'll get msc. Okay, I get only all the transactions of this user in 2023, which is cool. Basically, when you have millions of transactions, if you search by user ID, which is not the partitioning key, the query will be slow. So right now we are dealing on a small scale. So if you open the query stats, it takes 3.65 request units, and it shows 27 results. And actually, if you say search by user, only by user, and if you execute the query, interesting, user ID. Okay, again, missed it. Okay, we will get kind of the same, and we get almost the same request per units. But why that? Because we have a very small amount of documents, and there is no partitions, because right now we have only one partition, and we have a small amount of documents. If you have millions of documents and you have like thousands of users, if you don't pass the partitioning key here, you will notice a low performance in the query, and it will cost you more because the query has to go and search across partitions that can be logical and physical partitions to find what you're looking for. So make sure that the partitioning key is in the query whenever you can. So that's the first thing. The second thing in our query, that we know that every wallet has its currency, and that's a feature of our project, that usually the expenses tracker project that's existing right now in the market, you associate a currency with a full account, and then you cannot use multiple currencies. And that's a big problem. So one of the things we tried to solve is that each wallet has its own, which is the concept of wallets, and each wallet has a currency. And in this case, we can support multiple currencies. So when the user retrieves all the transactions for all the wallets, that doesn't make sense. It can be possible, but we don't need to retrieve all of them. So a wallet must always be needed. So what we can do, we can ask for a single wallet or multiple wallets. So the user can retrieve all the transactions based on multiple wallets in the filter. How we can do that? We need to add and wallet c.wallet ID in, and here we pass a set of wallet IDs, either one or multiple. That will work fine. So let's try to retrieve a wallet ID. So I'll open wallets and items. New SQL query, and then I'll say select value c.id. So I get all the wallet IDs I do have in here. Interesting, I do have a lot. Okay, let me take the one. Okay, let me just show all of them so I know the details. Oh, this is the transaction, sorry. Okay, I shouldn't have all those wallets. Yeah, I do have only 3 wallets. That's cool. So I will take this one, which is the one that we use most of the time, and I'll paste it in here. Then I'll hit execute query, and I should see up to 5 transactions, correct? Those are the one that we added recently. And if I bring more stuff, so I'll take this one, let me add it here too. That's in case the user picked another query. So I should see one more. Let's bring the last one, which is interesting. What's happening? Okay. Seems they have a CSS issue in there. Okay, here we go. Now I can copy it. And I'll paste this also here. And execute. So I should get all the queries I do have. The other queries I've added just for them. The other transaction that you see, those are huge ones, just for demonstration purposes. They are not related to, they have a random wallet. So that's how the query should look like. One more thing we need to add if we want to search over a certain date. So the last queries I've added was in, if we check the creation time, the creation time is like, the old ones are added in May. So we need to add also a min and max date. Those are optional. The user can pick that. C.creation date bigger than, let's set the maximum date to June 1st. We should see less transactions. That's correct. And if we want to see only in May, so what we do is we say 05 and c.creation date smaller than or equal to 2023 05 31. Execute query, and we got only the transactions we added in May. So we can use the between operator. You can say between this date and this date, but I'm going to keep it for and. You're going to see why this in the code. This is how the query will look like. So let's go ahead and start implementing that in our project. I'll go to Visual Studio, and then in the Solutions Explorer, you're going to see that in here we have the Cosmos Transactions repository. So I open this one, and that's what we see currently, which is cool. I will go to iTransactions repo, the interface, just to define the method we are looking for. Come on. And this one will retrieve task enumerable transaction, and say list async, or let's say list by user ID async. Mostly the user ID. So we'll pass the user ID. We need the year too for the partition key, and then we need the date. As we say, those are optional. They can be passed, or we can just ignore them. Date, and the last thing we need is the list of wallets. So string wallet IDs. Let me just put this in here and then make those an optional parameters. Just like that. Okay, great. That's the method will look like. I'm going to change this in a bit, but let's go step by step so we can understand that better. Then let me go to the implementation. And let's create that method in here. So it's public async. We'll put that. And okay, that's great. So right now we have this method. This one is user. I did a typo. That's great. For now, if you notice, most of the time I'm using the pure queries. Actually, we can use link, we can use entity framework, and as I've mentioned earlier in this course, I'm going to show you all the different possibilities. For now, we started on the queries, we'll continue the queries, but when it comes to the reporting section, which will be a set of videos only for reporting, we will use link and entity framework. So in this case, you can pick the one that you're most comfortable with. But right now I'm writing queries, so you can learn how to actually write queries against cosmosdb. So let's right now do some quick validation. null or white space, user ID, and throw an exception. Same for the year. If the year is bigger than something like that, so our application can support for all those years. And wallets.any, we need at least one wallet. Or, yeah, and sorry, come on. Oops. Wallet IDs. Any. Okay, let's pass this. And right now, let's build the query. This query will be dynamic, as we have said. If we open this, you can see that the wallet ID and user IDs always persist, but the creation date, the min and max date are not always there. So we're not going to use a direct string, we'll use a string builder. So I'm going to say here query builder equals new string builder in C#, and then I will append the main part of the query dot append, and what I'll be doing is I'll copy this like that. I'll put it here just like this, and then I will change this and parameterize it. So say user ID here. Now let's add some and wallet c.wallet ID in add wallet IDs. Okay, now let's check if min date not equals to null, so it has a value, then the query builder dot append, it did it right. This one called the creation date. And let's do the same for max date. So that's better than the direct concatenation because string builder is more performant and more efficient to concatenate strings than just using the normal way of concatenation. Right now we have this. The last thing we need to do is to define the parameters to complete this query. So query definition, that's the query, and right now we say with parameter. Okay, it did everything, which is cool. This one, those will also be optional. This one is Copilot is great. So wallet IDs. Wallet IDs, this is an object or a collection, so we not going to pass them like this. We'll use string.join. This will be the operator, and that's the wallet IDs. That's how will basically it look like. There we go. Right now we say again, if min date is not null, add the min date value, and same like that. We don't need to say this query. Okay. So right now we do have it. Okay. Then we save our iterator. So we'll come back to paging in a second because there's something to mention here, but sometimes I get just a bit excited, and we just do the result equals await iterator.read next and return result. Okay, that's cool. So we have this neat method that does its job, but we need to make sure that this one is working. The next step is to get that into an Azure function. So let's create the Azure function that will call this. I will, in the functions project, new Azure function, and I'll call it list transactions. Okay. HTTP trigger with open API. Open API, not AI. Okay. So we add. Great. Let's start by injecting the transactions repo. Transactions repo. So transactions repo. Then add parameter. That's great. We have it. So just transactions. Okay, now we need to read the parameter. The first parameter we need is the user ID, which is for now user ID. And then to do fetch from the access token. That's when we implement the security part. So we have the string. So say here year parameter, because it's a string value. So that's why I called here parameter, because I'm going to convert it to string. Let's get rid of this. And then I'll say string min date parameter and max date parameter, and the wallet IDs. But this one I'm going to say it's var, because this one actually retrieves a string. If you noted this one, it's a string value, so it can contain one or multiple values. So, but if you make it string, it will take the first one, and if you store it in string value, so you have multiple, which is what we are interested in. Let's do right now some validation in here. So if your parameters, I'm going to say your parameters required, new API error response, here is required. That's great. Then we do also we need to check for the wallets. So if wallet IDs dot any, if it's not contain anything, you just need to do the same. At least one wallet is required. Now let's do some conversion. So I'm going to type integer year equals 2023 just for now. Then I will say if integer, we'll try parse the year parameter. If it fails, then year is invalid. I'm just going to say it like that. Right now, let's check for the date. So I'm going to create here also. I'll create date time. Come on. When date equals null, date time max date equals null. So I do have min and max, but those are null. Those are optional again. And let's check if a string is null or white space the min date parameter, and we need because to parse this field. So sorry, if it's null or date time, let's try parse the min date parameter out var date for now, and I'll say min date equals the date. Come on, I'm missing it a lot with those. And if it managed to parse it successfully, if it's not parsed successfully, just ignore it. As we said, this is optional. If the user passed like a wrong value, we don't care, but we don't need the app to crash. So the reason why I wasn't able to, because this one, the try parse method, has to take a date time. This one is an optional, so that's why we had to pass what we call it, to create like a version. So a specific instance, I call this min date value like that. Okay, that's a bit stupid naming, but that's okay. Then let's copy it and do the same for the max. So max date parameter, do the same here, do the same, and max date value. So we need a specific course just to clean this code a little bit. This one is max. Great, so I have all the parameters ready for me. The last thing is just to pass this, or let's call this transactions equals the weight transactions repo dot list by user async, so user ID, year, wallet IDs parameter. I'm just going to call this wallet IDs. Let's hit double control R. I call those parameter because those not the actual value. This is the actual value because we'll receive it just a collection of string. We'll pass it as a collection of string. Those one will require some manipulation. That's why I give it parameter, so I can have the actual value here and here. And then the min date and max date, those nullable. And the last thing is we need to retrieve transactions, but we're not going to retrieve the transactions that they are. We're going to transfer them to transaction DTO. And currently we don't have, we just have a manual way to do that, like by new. So I'm going to create an extension method to use it as a mapper, because you know I'm a fan. Transactions. Mappers. I don't use automapper. I use extension methods for that. I like this way. It's more efficient, at least for me. So we're going to say transaction DTO to transaction DTO. This transaction. Oops, sorry, it's not system.transactions. Okay. And here we say return new transaction DTO. I can just say it like that, shorter. And here we define ID, is transaction.id, amount, category, creation date, description, is income. Okay, wallet ID, tags, and we don't need the user ID, of course, because we are already retrieving for a specific user. Attachments, and for the creation date, it's called datetime. Okay, and I think that's it. We don't have anything else, correct? Those are all the properties that we need. So right now, we say new API success response. It will retrieve a file enumerable, a transaction DTO, that takes transactions retrieved successfully, and the records is transactions dot select t.to transaction DTO. That's how I'm going to translate them. It's great. What's wrong with that? Okay, this one is missing. Great. So that's it all. Right now we have this. It's very basic, straightforward. All this code is just a boilerplate code. We can get rid of it. And but I'm going to allocate a specific videos for that. This course is long. It's huge. If we need to divide it. So let's run the project and let's go to Postman right now. And first, let me go ahead and duplicate the list user wallets because it's get. So let's duplicate the user wallets. Click in here. I'm going to say list user transactions, and this one will be list transactions like that. Save. That's great. So if I try to call it, I should see an error. Directly says here is required, of course. Okay, that's great. So we have this good. So let's first bring wallet ID, because we need to pass the wallet. So I will take this one, the one that we commonly use. Let's go to list user transactions, and I'm going to say wallet IDs equals, we pass this, and we pass the year equals 2023. I'm going to hit send. Okay, we get the breakpoint. Let's see what we have. So this is the year parameter, 2023. It's a string, no mandate, no max date, but we have wallet IDs. It's only one wallet. Cool. We do have wallets, so we pass the validation. Right now, let's try to have the year. Okay, it has been translated to integer. We don't have dates. That's cool. Right now we can do this. Another set of validation. This validation, we need also to apply that outside. So maybe you can remove those from here actually. So let's set the query builder. Okay, right now this is the part we have. Mandate they are both null, so we don't care about them. Now we get some parameters set. So that's how the final query look like. If I check the query builder, select star from C, where c.userid equals this user ID, and that's its value, and c.wallet ID in wallet IDs, that's also here. So let's execute. Great. So what do we get in here? We get 5, which is correct. If we pass this only one, we get 5. Let's keep going. Now it will go across this, continue. And if we see Postman, here we go. We got all the transactions in a neat format, as you can see. We can just right now put that in the client, show it in a beautiful, let's say, shape. Everything is great. Let's just test the min and max date. So I'll pass and I'll pass like mandate equals, let me take this, pass only the one in May as we have agreed, or let's start first by testing only mandate only. Let's pass. Okay, that should be good. This section, there we go. It did the translation. Yep, correct. So how the query should look like right now. Here we go. You're going to see it right now. It will add another parameter and the query look a little bit different if you check, and see creation date bigger than the mandate, which we passed in here. So we should get less results. I think 3 or 4, 2. Okay, here we go. That's right. Amazing. So last thing I want to do, just pass and max date equals 2023 0601, and I'll make this one May. So we'll retrieve only the 3 ones in May. Let's ignore this. And that's right, we got 1, 2, and 3. That's it. This is all what we need to do for the session to just make it, to not make it longer. I'm just going to keep the paging for the next video, which is just like a couple minutes, 2 or 3. It's very easy, basic, but we need pagination here because cosmosdb doesn't retrieve anything. We're going to talk about that in the next video. I hope you enjoyed this one and you are getting more familiar with cosmosdb and you're liking it more. And that's it for now. See you in the next one.